everyone, Alyssa here. So today we are going to bake cookies. Well, I'm going to bake the cookies myself, but you will join me by watching me do it. So, I have a recipe that I love. I don't use any other recipe. First of all, I don't make cookies that are pre-made. I only do it from scratch. So, that's fun. And the recipe that I use, I got from a really good friend. It's my favorite, and the cookies turn out super amazing. And the cool thing is, see, everyone likes their cookies differently. I like my cookies with a little bit of a chewy, soft texture, really puffy and nice and fluffy and everything. So, without further ado, so this is my ingredient table of all my ingredients, and we are going to start baking cookies today by grabbing my flour in my nice little tin here. And we will need, for this wonderful recipe, we will need, let's see, 2 1/4 cups of flour. 2 1/4. Now, the cool thing about my handy dandy measuring cups is they have Braille on them, so this one has 1 cup right in Braille right here. And this one says 1/4. So, I'm going to fill the cup twice and a 1/4 cup once. Here we go. This should be fun. And this gets a little bit messy, but when you're blind and you're doing things like this, that's just how it works. You just get messy. Makes it more fun. So, I'm going to fill this cup. Now, the trick to this is I just kind of get my hands in there. I promise I wash my hands a lot before I do this. I get this nice and full, and then I brush the top, just like so. And brush it again just to make sure it's compact, and it is. It's level as well. Make sure it's level. And that is 1 level cup of flour. So we're going to put it right in there. I'm mixing my dry ingredients in a small bowl, separate from my wet ingredients. So now we will, ooh, that'll be a mess later. That's okay. Now we're going to, ooh, it's snowing in here. Okay, we're going to fill up this cup again, just like we did the first time. Nice and compact, but yet level. Brushing the top as we go. Whoop, we need a little bit more, not too much. Just like that. And we're going to brush the top. And brush it again. And there we go. Nice and compact, yet level. Okay, so we're going to put that right into our bowl here. And my guide dog is going to enjoy licking up flour off the ground. All right. So now we need to use our 4th cup for our last 1/4 cup measurement of flour. We'll do the same thing. Level that out, just like that. And voila. Put it directly in our bowl here. There. Got a nice big bowl of flour. Okay, now we're going to take these cups, and for now, I'm going to bring them to the sink, and I only have 1 measuring cup for 1 cup, so I will have to reuse it at some point in this recipe, and because it's all going to the same place anyway, I'll just give it a nice rinse, just like that. You always want to rinse flour off when you use it because it tends to stick, so rinsing your hands is always a good idea after touching flour. Just like that. And then, that is done. The cup is clean. So then we want to grab our dish rag here and give it a dry. And we're going to be using this cup. The 4th cup we don't need anymore. But we're going to be using this cup for one of our other ingredients in a minute. So, there's that. Nice and dry. We don't want any wet marks because we don't want any wet going into our cookies. So, gotta be real thorough when you're doing things blind. Very thorough. Okay, that is all dry. So now we're gonna come back over here to our ingredient table here. Whoops. And set this back down because we'll need it later. Now, we are going to grab our next ingredient, which I will find, have everything set here, is our baking soda. And it's in a nice box here. And we will need, oops, put the baking soda down first. Multitasking is not my strength. And then we'll put the flour away as well because that's a good idea. So we'll put the lid on the flour. Now, for those of my fellow blind friends here, I use, to to store my ingredients like flour and sugar and things like that, I use these little tins. They're really cool. And they have a little snap lid in the middle that you just push a button and it snaps airtight closed. And they don't make messes for the most part, and they're nice and deep. So that's what I keep my flours and sugars in. So now I need to grab my teaspoon. So that would be this one. So I have a teaspoon connected to a third cup, which I will not need a third cup, but this is not in Braille, but I know it's a teaspoon. So this time the baking soda gets everywhere. So I'm going to bring it over to the sink. This is my trick for doing this blind. Sorry, Gabby, I just kicked my guide dog in the face. Whoops. Just in my way. All right, so here is my box of baking soda. There's a little tab that I have to pull out. It takes a while to kind of get it out, but just pull it out like that. And then I'm going to hold my teaspoon level with the sink. And the reason I do this is because as a blind person, when you're dumping baking soda, you can't really, obviously see that you're dumping it directly into the teaspoon. So I do it by feel, and if I happen to miss, it just goes into the sink. So I waste baking soda, but that's not a big deal. So you hold it level just like so to the box, and I just dump it over my finger, and I feel it pour out until, oops, that was a lot. There, until it's level, and then I will just kind of scrape the edges, let the remainder that I don't need fall off my fingers. And then I'll scrape the edges and see where I'm at here. I might need a little bit more. Whoops. Let's see, am I level? I need a little bit more, just a teeny bit. So the reason I can tell if I'm level without sight is I'll just put my finger in there, and if my finger goes in at all in a little dent, then I'll just fill in that dent. Just like that. So I'm letting a lot of baking soda go, but that's okay. There's a huge box. And that is nice and level. So what I will do is I'm going to come back over here, keep my finger on it so it doesn't spill, because that's important. And then I'll set the baking soda, not there because that would be bad. I'm going to set it on the counter for a minute. And then I'm going to take my level teaspoon of baking soda. And I'm going to dump it right in, just like that, to my bowl of dry ingredients. Just like that. And it should have gotten all in there. Yep. Okay, so the next thing I need, with the same teaspoon, which baking soda is so not dirty, so you just brush it off, is I will grab my salt shaker here, which is right here. And I always keep it on pour when I'm doing this because, again, I have to pour it over the sink to measure it correctly so that I can tell if it's level. Now, again, wasting salt is not that big of a deal. So then I pour it right on over my finger again. Woo! Making some salt water in the sink now. And I just keep pouring, almost there. There, now I can start brushing the top. And we're almost level, so we just need a little bit more. Very carefully there. And that should be good. Let me see, does my finger go in? Oh, my finger goes in a tiny bit. See, I'm very, very thorough, and I'm kind of I will warn you guys ahead of time, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. Okay, that's an understatement. I'm a lot of a perfectionist. So I like things as perfect as possible, which when you're blind is not such a good idea, but I make do. So that seems about level to me. So I will bring it over to my bowl here. Set my salt down next to my baking soda. And then I will dump the salt into my ingredients and brush off the remains in there as well because I'll make sure all of it gets in there. All right. So dry ingredients are complete. So now I'm going to move the baking soda back to my table here, and I'm going to close it so it doesn't spill. Oh, and my salt. That's a good idea. So let's set that here. And now we're going to, and I'll just set this down too for a minute, we're going to start our wet ingredients now. So, actually, before I do that, I'm going to grab what I need. So I'm going to grab this right here is not butter, though it might appear to be. This is called shortening. Now, I believe this is actually vegetable shortening. And this is, I mentioned earlier, this is my favorite recipe, and it's a different recipe that I use. And so this particular shortening is used in this recipe, and the reason for it, I use it instead of butter. I'm going to switch bowls right now. I'm putting my dry ingredient bowl over here on my stove so that it's away from me. And I'm going to switch to my wet ingredient bowl. Okay, so what I was saying, this is my shortening. And the shortening is used for it really helps the texture of the cookies. It really makes them, it gives them that fluffy texture. And this is a secret, I think it's a secret ingredient because many people don't use this when making cookies. Some people do, but it's very rare. Most people like butter. I do not. I think this is a way better way to make cookies because it just makes the texture good. And they always turn out flawless. It's like you can't really mess up cookies made with shortening unless you make them, you know, with the wrong ingredient mixture or something. So I'm pulling the shortening stick out of this package. And just for right now, I'll set the package on the counter until I can make it to the trash. And then I will now, vegetable shortening is very greasy, so of course it's gross to touch, but I'm blind and my hands are my eyes, so I'm going to touch it. So I just unwrapped it and threw it right in there. And just because I want to get the grease off my fingers, I'm going to go to my trash can here. Sorry, Gabby. My dog keeps getting in my way. And throw the wrapper in the trash. All right, and I'll throw the other wrapper away later. So I've got my shortening in here. Now I'm going to rinse my hands because they are very greasy. There's a lot of steps to doing this. This is not an easy, fast task. It's, you know, when you bake or cook as a blind person, there are several steps that you have to take. Because cleanliness when you're cooking and baking, especially because you have to use your hands a lot, is most important. So washing your hands, I wash my hands probably about 10 times while I'm baking something or cooking something. So my hands are washed. And I'll come over here to my oven where my hand towel is hanging and dry them off. Just like that. And then I will come over back to my ingredient table. And next is my sugar. So now I'm going to take, first I will do my cup, which I use for the flour. I guess I do need to get this out of my way, but I'll just scoot it that way for a minute. Now I'm going to get a bag of brown sugar. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever heard of making cookies with brown sugar, but I will tell you that this is one of the secret ingredients to make this recipe so amazing as well. So shortening and brown sugar are my two favorite ingredients that I think really make these cookies marvelous. Now, I have some trash getting in my way, so I am going to take a second to throw it away. It's always important to have things out of your way so that you can work effectively. So, right here, I have my bowl with my shortening in it. And I'm going to open this Ziploc bag. This is how I store my brown sugar in a Ziploc baggie so that it's airtight and easy to get to. So then I will take my 1 cup, and I'm going to need 1 cup of brown sugar. So I will scoop that out now. I'll kind of tip the bag a little bit so that I can get it. And then I will scoop it out as best I can without spilling. But you know what? If I spill, that's okay. I will just clean it up. Alright, so I've got here a pretty level cup. I think I need a little bit more. So I'll come in here and just kind of, what I do to kind of get a little bit more is I just put the cup back in, and then I take my hand in with the cup and I just kind of scoop some brown sugar from the bag back into what I've already done. And then I pull it out and brush the top of the cup with my hand back into the bag to get any extra out. And now, oops, that's a little bit extra that I don't want. And now I'm pretty level. So I've got a cup of brown sugar that I'm going to pour in with my shortening. So the brown sugar really, like I said, helps the texture of the cookies. And so I really, really like using it. So now that that's done, I will not need this cup any longer. So I'm going to come and just kind of toss it in the sink. And sometimes I do my dishes as I go, but for the sake of time and not to bore all of you, I'm just going to toss it in the sink and come back to it in a minute. So I'm going to come back to my sugar now, and now I'm going to brush whatever remains I have off my hands. I'm going to use white sugar. Now with the white sugar, I keep that also in a tin, but again, I'm going to not forget to put my brown sugar away so I have more room. See, I will mention that my husband and I live in a little guest house right now, and we have very limited counter space. I have 1 countertop. So As a blind person, that can be a challenge, so I've had to learn to adapt to that challenge. So I have my little countertop and a little table next to it where I keep everything. And I just have to keep making sure that I clear my counter space each time. So now I'm bringing the white sugar over. I will open the tin. And I need a 1/2 cup for my white sugar. Let's see. This is a 1/2 cup. Yes, it is. Okay, so this is my 1/2 cup. It is not in Braille, but I know because on the other side is a tablespoon measurement on it, connected to it. So that's how I've learned that. So I will dip this cup into my white sugar tin and fill it to the brim, because we like to have our sugar in our cookies. Yum, yum. So I will mention right now that my landlord actually is wanting me to make these cookies for her. She's awesome, by the way, we're good friends. And so she wants a certain amount of cookies for her work, and she requested 50 cookies. So today I am making many, many cookies. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm scooping sugar. It takes a little while to do the sugar because I'm actually trying not to spill. So I'm being a little bit methodical about this here, so I don't have a huge mound to clean up. Oh, all right, almost done. All right, so now I will level this out a little bit, and it looks like we could use a little bit more, so I'll go in and scoop some more in here. White sugar is a little bit harder to work with because the texture of white sugar is, as you might know, is different than brown. It's more of a fine texture, so it's a little bit harder to measure because it kind of slips through your fingers a little easier. So again, I'm just going to I'm a little low on sugar, so I'm taking handfuls and just putting it in the cup because I'm getting really low on it. There, that should be good. I'm a little bit under, but you know what? Not too bad. So I've got a pretty level, about 99.9% level 1/2 cup there, and I'm going to say that's good. So I'm going to pour that right in with my brown sugar, and it is really important to make your ingredients exact, your measurements exact. But, you know, if you're like a centimeter off, I don't think it's going to matter too much. Okay, so now I'm done with this cup, so I'm going to toss it in my sink. And my next step is I'm going to get a fork. So, and the reason I use a fork, and I'll explain it in a second, is because it really helps to chop up. So this shortening that I'm using, it's like a stick of butter, but it's a lot more firm. So it's not as easy to, you don't really melt it like you do butter. So it's not as easy to mash. So what I do is I take a fork and I just kind of chop the shortening, and the sugar gets chopped too as well, or mixed in a little bit. So I'm taking the fork, and it's a little bit of a messy work, but that's okay. I like it. So I am with the edge of the fork, and I'm going to take my hands a little bit and separate it because it'll make it easier. But I'm mashing up the shortening so that it's not such a big glob, because if I leave it that way, it'll be hard to mix everything else in. So I'm just chopping, and I'm using my finger as a guide so that way I know what I'm chopping. So I have the fork in my right hand, and with my left hand I'm kind of using one finger to separate the shortening, and then with my fork I am chopping it up so that it kind of becomes a soft consistency, kind of like mashed potatoes. It kind of reminds me of like mashing them up in the pot. Yep. And it gets a little greasy on my fingers and stuck to my fingers, so I just kind of shake it off over the bowl and then wash my hands after I'm done. So, and if you have any questions, I've kind of been going through this as fast as I can. So if you have any questions about the measurements and the recipe that you want me to repeat or you didn't catch, just comment below and I will let you know. It's a very good recipe. I'm telling you, I have never messed up any cookies by doing this. Okay, so this is all chopped up. Oops, get it off my finger. All right, I'm going to, I don't think I'll be needing my fork anymore because I'm going to use a wooden spoon from now on. So I'm going to come over to the sink now that I've chopped up my shortening, and I'm going to put my fork in the sink, and I'm also going to wash my hands because it gets super, super greasy. And I got to make sure the grease is off my hands. So, the last couple ingredients that I'm going to do, you can see how many times I'm obsessively washing my hands, but I'm also a little OCD about that, but I think it's a good thing. All right, so the last 2 ingredients that we need are eggs and vanilla. So we're gonna go with our eggs first. This is always fun. So I have here set up, I have 2 eggs. So I'm gonna take my first egg and I'm gonna crack it. Woo! That was fun. So normally I crack it 2 times on the edge of the bowl. And I open it with my thumbs, but this time I kind of got lucky. I kind of fell out of the shell. So, and I believe I'm completely free. No shells fell in. I usually check with my finger just to make sure, and it looks like there's no shells. All right, so I'm gonna go toss this shell in the sink. That was easier than I expected. Wow. All right. So now I'm gonna grab my second egg. There it is. And I'm gonna, hopefully this time it'll be a little gentler. I'm gonna crack it. Oops. I'm gonna do it on the other side of the bowl. I'm gonna give it 2 cracks, maybe 4. Oh yeah, this one's firm. Okay, so I'm gonna turn the bowl. If it doesn't crack right away, then I probably need to turn the bowl. There we go. And the texture needs to change. So now there's enough of a crack where I can take my 2 thumbs and pull open the shell and let the egg drop in, just like that. And I will throw this shell in the sink again, and I will wash my hands again because it is very bad to have raw egg on your hands and leave it there. So I think this has been 4 times now that I've washed my hands. It's okay. It's part of the process. So our final touch to our ingredients before we get to hardcore mixing is our vanilla. Now vanilla is also one of my favorite ingredients. It adds a lot of flavor, and I think if, you know, when you use vanilla in a recipe, it really adds to the recipe in anything. So, going back to my ingredient table and grabbing my, I believe that's not my teaspoon. I need a teaspoon. Where's my teaspoon? Looking for a teaspoon. When you're blind sometimes. Oh, I think this is my teaspoon. Perfect. All right. Now, I'm going to grab my vanilla. So, got my teaspoon and my vanilla, and I'm going to feel, actually I'm going to go to the sink for this too, just to be safe. And maybe what I'll do, see, sometimes when you're blind you gotta figure things out as you go. So, what I'm going to do is I'll explain what I'm doing. I'm holding my bowl that has all my wet ingredients, and I'm going to slide my other bowl off to the side so that I have room, and I'm going to place the bowl of wet ingredients right next to the sink so that I can pour the vanilla directly into it. So I'm going to open this cap here, and then I'm going to is that pretty level there? I think so. It never hurts to add a little bit extra vanilla. So that seems pretty good. So I'm going to bring my teaspoon of full vanilla and dump it in. There we go. Yay! All of our wet and dry ingredients are mixed. So now, my vanilla is actually gone now, so I gotta go shopping. So now what I will do, and I'm not gonna bore you with this, so I will do this and then get back with you after it's done. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my wooden spoon here, and what I'm going to essentially do is take these wet ingredients and dry ingredients. I've got my sugar there still, but that's all right. We'll make room. And ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to pour little by little the dry ingredients in, and we are going to mix. Now, I have a little bit of mixing to do now because my eggs are still kind of not beaten. So I'm going to beat those eggs a little bit with my wooden spoon. And here we go. And mix all my ingredients around a bit. And then I will slowly pour these ingredients, the flour, the baking soda, and the salt, into my bowl of wet ingredients. I won't do it all at once because that'll be too hard to mix. So I'm going little by little. There's some flour, just a bit. And I will mix it as I go. So I will be back with you once this is all mixed together perfectly. Okay, so we have everything mixed perfectly together. So our next step is to add our chocolate chips. Now I use Ghirardelli Semi-Sweet, which is my favorite. Nothing else like it. So here are our chocolate chips, and we're just gonna dump them right into our dough. Just like that. They're in a bag, so just emptying them right in there. Woo, it looks really cool. All right. Now what I do, because, whoops, that's on the floor. That's all right. I'll pick it up later. What I do, because it's fun and my hands are clean, is I mix it with my hands so I can feel how evenly the chocolate is being spread. So I just kind of roll it around in my fingers, turn the dough over and over, and get the chocolate evenly spread. Woo, yeah, this is fun. I love it, and it's a little bit of an arm workout too. So I squeeze the dough and make sure the chocolate's all molded in there. Perfect. Everything turned out great. So now, our final step before putting them into the oven is to shape our cookies and put them on our cookie sheet. So right here is our cookie sheet, ready to go on our stovetop. So I will make, now I'm a perfectionist, again, so they all have to be the same size, and if they're not, I will make sure they are. So I'm going to form my first cookie here. Now I'm trying to make sure that I get chocolate into each one. So I just make sure there's chocolate chips and I'll push them in to the lump of cookie dough and I'll roll it. Just, whoops, just like that. And sometimes I have to reshape it a couple times because I want it perfect. And I make my cookies big. I know most people don't, but I like to do that. So I'm going to set this first cookie right in the top left corner of the cookie sheet. And then right next to it, with a little space in between, I will put a second cookie that will be the exact same size, and if it's not, I will make sure it is. So let's see. I have our oven. It's been preheated to right between 325 and 350 degrees, so it's ready to go. Now, putting my second cookie right here, and they are twins. Wow, exact same size. Nice big gap between them so they don't stick together. And I will not make you watch me do this for the whole time, so I will be back with you when I'm ready to put them in the oven. Okay, so all of our cookies are ready to be put in the oven. So I'm putting on my oven mitts right now. Actually, let's see. Yeah, this one's good. So I'm putting these on just like this. And I'm going to place the sheet of cookies in the oven. So let's come over to the oven. Did I just turn it off? No, I didn't. Okay. So now I'm opening the oven. Oh, okay. Oh, that is hot. Woo-wee. All right, so I'm opening it all the way. Now I'm going to reach for my cookie sheet, grab it from the edges, and ever so carefully find the rack. So I'm scooting it into the oven. I'm feeling for the rack. Got to go a little higher because there it is. Now I'm going to scoot them in nice and tight. There we go. And I'm going to close the oven, and they're going to bake for, we're going to give it about between 13 and 15 minutes. These cookies bake longer because they're on a lower heat, but they turn out wonderful. So we'll be back when they are done. All right, we are ready to take them out of the oven, our beautiful cookies. Here we go. Woo! They are doner than done. Let's feel for them. Top rack here. Oh, wrong rack. There they are. I found them. Okay. So I'm going to slowly scoot them toward me and grab a grip of the cookie sheet and pull them out. Ooh, yeah, nice and warm. And set them directly on the stove burner, just like that. Yay, I'm going to close the oven. Ugh, lots of heat in my face. And those are some beautiful cookies. They're going to be nice and firm and tall. They look golden brown and nice and chewy. And how do I know that? They turn out the same way every time. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions about the recipe or anything at all, let me know. Have a good day.